Hello there, and welcome to the Wealthy LaLa Show with myself, Laurie Laursen. I just really want to truly thank you guys all for being here, for showing up, for listening. I just, how did I truly get so lucky? I know I'm having gratitude on Wisdom Wednesday, not Thankful Thursday. How dare I go off track? Oh, you guys, one of the things that I've loved over the years and noticed about myself is that I absolutely love to gather information from all different sources. And so, as much as I know that myself, I'm a wonderfully wise woman, I love sharing tidbits from other people as I discover and uncover them. So today I happened to be on Facebook and I saw this article, and it's on Uplift. I will put the link in the show description because if you guys want to read it again, it's by a fella, I'm assuming a fella, Jamie Varon. And this was written actually November 23rd, 2016. And I just discovered it today, and it put words to some things that I just really needed to read myself and just help sort of clean up some, I guess I would call energies, like things that were sort of like, when you go through something and there's just sort of unfinished things with it, and then all of a sudden one day you hear something, another something, and then it just sort of all comes together. Well, that's what this article did for me. So I am actually going to read it to you because I just found it so incredibly brilliant. And it was something that I judged myself for a million times over throughout this whole process. Through my process, especially after discovering, being diagnosed with an illness and then taking, thousands of dollars worth of classes over the last 17 years, doing things different than the way most people do them. How come if I was learning all of this stuff so fast, learning all this stuff, how come I wasn't getting better faster? Like just all of that. So anyways, I'm going to just read this to you. So to anyone who thinks they're falling behind in life, you don't need more motivation. You don't need to be inspired to action. You don't need to read any more lists and posts about how you're not doing enough. We act as if we read enough articles and enough little Pinterest quotes, and suddenly the little switch in our brain will put us into action. But honestly, here's the thing that nobody really talks about when it comes to success and motivation and willpower and goals and productivity and all those little buzzwords that have come into popularity. You are as you are until you're not. You change when you want to change. You put your ideas into action in the timing that is best. That's just how it happens. And what I think we all need more of than anything is this: permission to be wherever we are when we're there. You don't get to control everything. You're not a robot. You can't just conjure up some motivation when you don't have it. Sometimes you're going through something. Sometimes life has happened. Life? Remember life. Yeah. It teaches you things and sometimes makes you go the long way around for your biggest lessons. You don't get to control everything. You can wake up at 5 a.m. every day until you're tired and broken. But if the words or the painting or the ideas don't want to come to fruition, they won't. You can show up every day to your best intentions, but if it's not time, it's just not the effing time. You need to give yourself permission to be a human being. Sometimes the novel is not ready to be written because you haven't met the inspiration for your main character yet. Sometimes you need 2 more years of life experience before you can make your masterpiece, into something that will feel real and true and raw to other people. Sometimes you're not falling in love because whatever you need to know about yourself is only knowable through solitude. Sometimes you haven't met your next collaborator. Sometimes your sadness encircles you because one day it will be the opus upon which you build your life. We are the same until we're changed. We all know this. Our experience cannot always be manipulated, yet we don't act as though we know this truth. We try so hard to manipulate and control our lives, to make creativity into a game to win, to shortcut success because others say they have to process emotions and uncertainty as if these are linear journeys. You don't get to game the system of your life. You just don't. You don't get to control every outcome and aspect as a way to never give in to the uncertainty and unpredictability of something that's beyond what you understand. It's the basis of presence, to show up as you are in this moment and let that be enough. Yet we don't act in a way that supports that lifestyle. We fill every minute with productivity tools and read 30-point lists on how to better drive out natural human impulse. We often forget that we are as we are until we're not. We are the same until we're changed. We can move that a bit further by putting into place healthy habits and showing up to our lives in a way that fosters growth. But we can't game timing. Timing is the one thing we often forget to surrender to. It will make sense later. Things are dark until they're not. Most of our unhappiness stems from the belief that our lives should be different than they are. We believe that we have control, and our self-loathing and self-hatred comes from this idea that we should be able to change our circumstances, that we should be richer or hotter or better or happier. While self-responsibility is empowering, it can often lead to this resentment and bitterness that none of us need to be holding within us. We have to put our best efforts forward, then give ourselves permission to let whatever happens to happen, and to not feel so directly and vulnerably tied to the outcomes. Opportunities often don't show up the way we think they will. You don't need more motivation or inspiration to create the life you want. You need less shame around the idea that you're not doing your best. You need to stop listening to people who are in a vastly different life, circumstances, and life stages than you, as they tell you you're not doing or being enough. You need to let timing do what it needs to do. You need to see lessons where you see barriers. You need to understand that right now becomes inspiration later. You need to see that wherever you are now is what becomes your identity later. We can't game it. There is magic beyond us that works in a way that we can't understand. We can't game it. We can't 10-point list it. We can't control it. Sometimes we're not yet the people we need to be in order to contain the desires we have. Sometimes we have to let ourselves evolve into the place where we can allow what we want to transpire. Let's just say that whatever you want it enough. So much so that you're making yourself miserable in order to achieve it. What about chilling out? Maybe your motivation isn't the problem, but that you keep pushing a boulder up a mountain that only grows in size the more you push. There is a magic beyond us that works in ways we can't understand. We can't game it. We can't 10-point list it. We can't control it. We have to just let it be. Take a effing step back for a moment. Stop beating ourselves up into oblivion and to let the cogs turn as they will. One day, this moment will make sense. Trust that. Give yourself permission to trust that. Now, this article was so beautiful. It actually literally makes me want to cry. I suffered from so much of this self-judgment and shame and blame of myself as I judged myself from, like if you look at it, I came into the alternative care looking at wanting to feel better after being diagnosed with the disease. I came into it with this sense of perfectionism, and actually, oh darn, Brene Brown actually posted something on her Instagram today talking about perfectionism, and the damage that it is and what it actually really is and how it creates the shame within our own worlds. And that was something that I kept creating over and over and over again. So while I took all these alternative classes and didn't get better like I expected I should, like I really realize now there was so much of where that came from was that I was trying to prove to the outside world that this awareness that I had, that there was something else possible, I wanted it to come to fruition so bad and so fast to prove to everyone. But that wanting to prove to everybody created this just more shame and more blame and more resentment and more self-hatred and self-anger and frustration and discouragement, that I didn't actually see that I was being called to this as something greater just for me, that it wasn't for anyone else. But when you're aware of other people looking at you, or you're, like in my case, you're spending family money within my husband and I, and us having 3 kids at home at the time, you want to feel like you're being responsible with this money, or that you should know what you're spending it on. And when I look back at it, what I was going on was my gut and my intuition. It's just, unfortunately, I didn't see just the gift of that. I actually saw all the other, the resentment and the discouragement and the, irresponsibility that I was feeling of, like, what am I doing? Why can't I just be normal like everybody else? Like, and it's so funny because really, what is normal? And what if I needed 17 years to get to this place? What if that was what was true for me? And that's what's given me the gift to be able to be here now. And I can see that now, and I get it now, and I can acknowledge it, and I can be so grateful for it. And I can also see all the, like, I don't judge myself anymore for the judgment that I chose before. I see that was also a part of it. It was also for me it was like trying something on for size. I tried it on for a really long time and kind of realized after a while that it was like, geez, this doesn't actually fit really good. I wonder if I could try something else. And then I began to ask for different stuff, and different stuff started to show up. I realized I didn't want to suffer anymore. And I know that that's where I got stuck in things, and I saw on Facebook today, there was, Susan Boyle, who was actually on is it America's Next Talent or something like that? I'm butchering it. I'm sorry. Anyways, she was on there years ago and ended up getting second place. And so here she was, a woman who was in her early 50s, who had cared for her parents and showed up on stage as this kind of, sort of a just average single woman who had been looking after her parents, and ended up blowing the world away with her voice. And what if that was just right on time for her? And I love that it's, to anyone who thinks they're falling behind in life, what if everything is just right on time and nothing's wasted? Everything is a gift. And when we ask to see things as a gift is when it becomes shown to us as gifts. And that's what I'm all in for anything. Actually, it's so funny. Well, it's not funny, but it's funny. It's like, I almost can't even see things as a negative thing anymore. It's like I'm automatically like a default, like, well, what's the gift in this? What's right about this? I still have my moments. I am lovely, humanly imperfect, and when things show up in my life now, it's my default is definitely to go, hey, I wonder what's right about this. Okay, I wonder what's really going on here. I I wonder. I just wonder. I just wonder. So I wish you a wonderful day, and I wonder for you. So big hugs. Thanks again so much for listening. And if you want the link to the article, it will be on the Podbean page. So thanks so much. You guys take care.